pick up right where we left off and basically add some functionality so that we can deal with decreasing karma and put a basic scaffold or structure in place for our script so that we can deal with the decrease of karma during character creation. And then from there we will do some crazier things. Now, I don't. Let's do that. And then nope. And then that. So I have sort of gone through and named, or not gone through, but we called it increased karma. Is it? I mean, some people may be looking at it and saying, well, you're not increasing karma, you're actually decreasing karma. What you're really doing is you're spending a point. So, do we want to go through and change this around? I mean, I do. We're going to. Because it's, I mean, as we talk about the stuff, and we'll just do that, and then we'll cut it and do that. As we talk about the stuff, I'm constantly saying, increase karma entry, increase karma process, increase karma whatever. It's been a misnomer up to this point, and I want this to be as clear as possible. And if going through and taking a minute or two and changing some of this stuff makes it any more clearer, because again, we're screwing around with assembly and memory and all that. If we can make it any more clear at all, then we're going to bite the bullet and we're going to do it. I'd rather do it now than do it later, because we're going to start building the script out and expanding it and whatnot. So it's just easier to do it now. So let's see, we got AOB scan, we got our Alec. And also what I'm going to do is I'm going to, no, we're going to leave that the same way. So let's see, spend point, spend point, spend point. What I want to go, I'm just going through right now, making sure there's no residual increased karma. Spend point, all we did was change it. Just click OK. All right. So now we're going to basically add some functionality to make sure our script is disabled. It is. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to decrease this. What do we got? 23. I want to say that this is probably the right one, but let's go in. We'll decrease it 3 times. 2, 3. Now it's 26. This is what we want. So in order to add the functionality, this is the basic what we're doing right here is going over and examining and pragmatically demonstrating why we set the script up this way. Because when we want to add some functionality or deal with some value or instruction, whatever you want to say, that we currently do not deal with, there's just a basic logical setup to the script that we can just follow it and sort of just nail whatever functionality we want on. Not any functionality, but certainly, some basic generic functionality. We can just nail it right to the structure that we have in the script, or duct tape. We can just tape it right to the structure we have, whatever you prefer. It's kind of a whole lot of different terminology floating around that some people like to use. I have no real preference, I guess is what I would say. So just like we did before, we are we obviously we have this value, this karma during character creation. Let's be really pedantic. Karma during CC. And then whenever we hit minus, this is the value that's going up. So we know that this is the assembly instruction that is modifying it. This is the series of bytes that represents this instruction. And then this is the memory location where that instruction exists. So what are we going to do? We're going to click on it. We're going to go to show disassembler. Cheat engine, does it jump us to the right address? 13E2FD82, it does. So here's the instruction that is being executed, or executed whenever we click minus on the window. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on it just like we did before. We're going to go to copy to clipboard. We're going to say bytes only, no address. So let's go over here. We're going to go to new scan. We're going to paste in this series of bytes. Because, why are we not just jumping over here and making a new AOB scan? Because we want to manually sort of go in and make sure that we're only getting back one result. Because if we're not, we're going to have to tweak this byte array by doing what we did before, looking at the subsequent instructions, and only then when we get one result in a predictable way, then we'll go back in and actually make the new ALB scan, make the new injection point, entry, process, return, stuff like that. So let's scan for this array of bytes over here. We get two results. The result that we actually want is 13E2FD82. That is the first result. So if we wanted to, we could just say, well, shit, that's good enough for me, and we can immediately come in here and paste it in and get down to business. I don't really. I have been known to do that from time to time, but I do not like to do that. I like to get it down to one result. So let's add the bytes from the next instruction. So instead of doing what we did before by typing 8B and stuff like that, I'm just going to right click on the next instruction. I'm going to copy to clipboard, the bytes only. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to paste it in. New scan, first scan. Still get 2. Is our script actually enabled? It is not. We could go down further. So let's step down one more. All right, so we seem to be getting a whole lot of results. We'll do this next one here and just see if we paste that on. That's a long string of bytes. We still get 2. So what this leads me to believe is that I don't want to get down into the push statement or the push instruction, as the case may be. What this is telling me is that there is a set of assembly instructions in memory that is pretty much a carbon copy of this right here. And to differentiate between the two is going to be tricky. Let's just add the 50 and see what we get. Still the same. See, it is more than possible that what we are seeing is a result of the fact that this game runs on managed code and is sort of and there is a whole lot of subtlety and idiosyncrasies that go along with that, which we are starting to sort of get into and see. But the fact that we have gone out a whole series, I mean, I have no idea how many bytes this is. It looks like, I don't know, 15 maybe. What is that? 6, 9, 12, 18. So let's say we've gone out, about 18, well, 19 because we threw the 50 in there. And we're still seeing the same 2 results. We are going to just say the hell with it for the purpose of this video, because this are the memory location of the instruction that we are interested in has shown up first every time. This is not good practice. I want to stress that at some point, you do want to sit down and basically find a way to weed all this crap out and get down to one result. But for the purposes of illustration, this may come back to bite us in the ass. I want to be clear about that. So what was the last one? 4370. So we're just going to take that. What is that? That is the byte pattern that represents the instruction that we're actually interested in, plus the one below it. So, that way it'll be somewhat similar. It'd be very similar to the ALB scan we have here. And again, I operate in discrete steps of instructions. So let's take this, let's copy it. And again, in assembly and ASM script, as far as cheat engine goes, you cannot differentiate, or you cannot deal with, multiple returns. You're going to get the first return, and you're going to get the first address that it finds, and that's it. There is no way that you can tell it, I don't want the first one. You're getting the first one, deal with it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to call it decrease. Do we want to do, let's see, spend point, remove point, decrease point? What do we want to name it? Let's just say decrease. Add point, because we're spending it and then we're adding it. I hate getting hung up on crap like that, so we're just going to say decrease point. For that byte array, 89, 89, 86. So there's one difference there. The rest of the bytes are exactly the same. So this is kind of what I was trying to illustrate in a general way, that in one of the previous videos, that when you start getting into this kind of stuff, and especially with this game in general, or maybe not especially with this game, but certainly with some games in general, you'll get into this scenario where You have very similar values being modified by very similar routines. And when you start trying to do code injection on those various routines, the byte patterns that you're searching for with ALB scan become extremely similar. And you have to be sort of cognizant of that. There's only two differences as far as a cursory glance between these two byte arrays. You you know, again, it's somewhat uncommon. Yeah, I'm gonna say it's somewhat uncommon, but again, just be aware that again, very similar values being modified by very similar routines produces very similar byte patterns, which makes ALB scanning somewhat tricky in assembly scripts because you can only get one result. So you have to sort of find a way to make the ALB unique. And there are other ways, such as, well, we'll get to that, but there are other ways that you can dig out pointers without actually having to know what the pointer is. You know, what's a quick example? If you could find a way to where, if you could find a routine or an instruction that accesses this value here, all you could, without actually having to know what this value is, just find a routine that like writes to it for the interface or something like that. You could just say, well, I want to store the address of this value in some value that I'm defining in my script, or some variable that I'm defining in my script, and then from there you could just refer to whatever the value of this is by the label or by the variable that you're defining in your script without ever having to know what the physical or real literal value is. And again, that's sort of the power that is derived from variables and naming and indirection in general, but again, that's something that we'll get to. So we're going to have a second injection point. Why? Because there's two separate routines. This is the memory location of the instruction. Sorry. This is the memory location of the instruction that is modifying this value when you click minus. So we need a new injection point so that we can overwrite this code. So we've done that. So we're going to need a new entry, decrease point. We're going to need a new process function, decrease point. And then we need a new return. And again, you can sort of see that the reason we built the script up in this way is because now we can just bolt on extra functionality by following the template that we sort of laid out. Do we have to register this? We do. Inject decrease point. And it all, again, is structured in a somewhat logical way. We have our entries, we have our process functions, which actually change values. Then we have our returns, which are essentially just placeholders. So now we come down here. We're going to do entry, decrease point. Logic goes here. Jump to the process function for decreasing the point so that it can actually do some changing. Process, decrease point. What is the original code? It is in fact this. So we're going to right click on it. I'm going to say copy to clipboard. Let's say opcodes. So we'll have to trim it up a little bit. There you go. Indent it to maintain some style. Then we will jump to the return decrease point. I am making it, I hate to say point again, but I'm making it a point not to go over this stuff at this sort of stage of the game. I mean, we've beat all this stuff to death and talked about labels and variables and values and memory locations and stuff. I mean, if this should make sense to you because we have built the original structure of the script with the entry, spend point, increase karma, as referred to, or which is what it was referred to previously. We built this out in a very slow, methodical way so that when we want to bolt on extra functionality, like dealing with the decrease point, that I'm not going to go back and talk, and go through the whole flow of the program and crap like that. Just because I'm not, because I'll be here literally forever. Decrease karma during character creation. Really getting down there in time. Inject, decrease point. I'm going to pick up my pace here a little bit. Jump, entry, decrease point. Do we need a NOP? It is 6 bytes. That's 5. We do. So then return, decrease point. All right, so we've got the basic. No, we don't. We got to do decrease or inject, decrease point. Got to paste that in. Get rid of that. And then we have to stop the video because I'm literally running out of time in seconds.